bit of trade and player movement, stepping away from the finals. So Jordan has nominated Sydney for where he wants to go. I'm not upset about it. Look, fair enough. He's not really getting a solid game, and I think he's too good to not be getting a game every week. But Sydney's an interesting choice. So is he a good fit there?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, like if he's walking into that best side, but he's a player that's still got some untapped potential. I think the Demons probably didn't want to lose him, but because he's a free agent, that's probably the case of why he kind of gets to exercise that right. And it's because he was delisted, not because he's been on the list long enough. So once you're delisted, and the next contract when you next come out off contract, or if you ever do after that, then you are eligible as an unrestricted free agent. So that gives him that ability to walk to the Swans, and they just want someone, I think, that can work in and under a bit more, or give them some versatility on kind of all three lines of midfield. Can play on the wing, can be that first ball user, and can be that link-up player in between. So they've got Chad Warner and Errol Goodman as both of these two explosive players. They've got James Robottom, who's this hard-nosed, defensive-minded midfielder. Luke Parker's obviously still getting runs through there, but Jordan, I think, can fit a role where he is that in and under first ball user, can get it out to a Warner or a Goulden. And then, like I said, he's not going to wow, I don't think, but he's going to get opportunity, which I think he's starved up a little bit, and it's going to be a bit of a blow for Melbourne's depth. Obviously, if they lose Harms, they lose him, and if they lose Clary for another 12 weeks or someone for another 12 weeks like they did this year, then they could certainly open up some holes in Melbourne's midfield. But it's going to be a good move for him. I think he's a Sydney Swans fan as well, so he'll be quite happy about that. And most importantly, it's probably going to be getting a starting role under John Longmire. I think that'll be quite fruitful for him.
Especially with Mills out now for
that's a while as well,
a bit too much wrestling, a bit too much jiu-jitsu. So Jack, Richmond, they're under Uze, it's off to coach, so are they at a bit of a crossroads with their list now?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, they've got quite a few senior players from sort of that dynasty period that are sort of heading towards the end of their careers. Obviously, we've overseen the retirements of Koch and Eriwald, so it's going to be a lot of sort of change, I think, in terms of the list. It looks like they're going to be bringing in Hawthorn forward Jacob Kazitsky. He's requested a trade, so that's one sort of surefire addition they've made. I think it's more about sort of what other moves they'll make as well, because they're a bit short on draft capital after having traded for Tim Taranto and Jacob Hopper last year. So a little bit short-handed in terms of their manoeuvrability, but I think there will be decisions that have to be made. There are players under the microscope for sure, some of those older players like your Dylan Grimes. Josh Gibbs is a really young player, but he didn't play all of this season. Promising first season, but a bit of question marks around sort of him and some of the guys from that draft class in terms of sort of actually now really showing their promise in more of like consistent patches as opposed to just here and there. So a few things that will be sorted out, I think, over the course of this off-season for Richmond.
You happy with the Kazitsky? Do you think that's a good move? Like, they need a forward, but is he...
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like he probably wasn't their first choice. I think if I had to guess, they would have been into Jake Riccardi had he not re-signed the Giants. I don't mind taking a shot at him. He's not going to cost a lot trade-wise. And Richmond were without Tom Lynch for a lot of last season, and I think his presence is going to be a massive impact once he comes back. And to sort of pair with him, I think because he kind of play under Lynch might be good for him. He's definitely going to get a run. So yeah, it's about making the most of his opportunities right now.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Like Jacob Bowers showed signs, but can't probably let it forward on yet. So he's not going to be that bridging gap between him and Lynch. And yeah, some of those draftees, like you said, only from 2021. Duke is a big fan, but just hamstring is obviously a big concern for him. But what are your thoughts on guys like Tom Brown, Sam Banks, Tyler Sonsie probably faded a little bit compared to his first year? How have you kind of rated those?
Yeah, it took a while for Brown to finally sort of get into the fray in terms of senior action. It took until last game of the season. Obviously, Sam Banks, Judson Clarks, those guys have had a few runs now. I think those guys sort of struggle with consistency at this early stage, but you're sort of looking for them to kind of make bigger jumps now next season, having been drafted in 21. But I do think because they had 5 guys from that draft within the first 30 selections, so they've got a lot of talent there that's sort of still sort of rising through, and I think next year could be when we start to see that really come to the top. Obviously, Tyler Sonsie as well. He ended his season in pretty poor fashion with a hit in the VFL, so he didn't have the season he really wanted to either. But I think with some of those retirements, older guys just getting older again this next year, there is going to be more scope for them to kind of really make a name for themselves.
Yeah, probably not. I think Marby or Scholl's probably one of the better guys you should be targeting, but I don't think he's going to be coming back to Punt Road. So,
probably not.
Yeah.
Dimmer just does not like Charles, does he?
Well, I don't really, can't really speculate, but it doesn't sound great when he's heading up there and then Scholl's now looking maybe on the move despite having 2 years on his deal, so yeah, who knows.
So back on Ooze, and are they? So where are Richmond at? Are they in a sort of rebuild, or are they sort of topping up and rebuilding as you go, like the Sydney? Like, what's in store for Ooze?
I think more of like a retool was sort of what they were going for, especially with the trades they made last season.
Yeah.
It's hard for them to make those trades last year and then kind of go full scale rebuild this year. So I think it was a bit of a retool last year going forward again. I still think that they should challenge for finals next year.
Yeah.
I think the Tomlin's absence is bigger than people realise. Just his presence as not just a marking target, but a guy that can bring the ball to ground. It's a real crafty learnt off Jack very well. And obviously you bring in a second key forward, Gazitsky, like you said, Jacob Bauer. There are guys who can sort of, whose burden is lifted just by the return of Lynch. You get a few more guys healthy. If Givkas can come back, you get some jumps out of those younger guys again. If Uze can sort of build an early rapport with the playing group, it bodes well as well. So I think they should challenge the finals. Definitely not a given, but I don't think they'll be down to the very bottom.
Yeah, I'd be pretty surprised if they wouldn't bottom out, not with that list. So Cats and Port, they put some picks on the trade table, Mitch.
Yes, Andy Mackey's confirmed that they're open to parting with pick 7, but they want something pretty decent. Now, I don't know if that's a player or if that's just more picks, but they obviously open to it. I think they might end up carrying it into the draft anyway. And, that pick 7 blows out to pick 11 or something. And if you're the Cats, and kind of what you want to be focused on is the future. They rebuild pretty well. Rebuild is probably the term Jack used quite well. Retool pretty well, but they'll be needing to make some sort of splash with a contracted player like Bailey Smith, who they've shut down anyway. So I'm not really sure what's going to be on offer to them from a playing point of view and that kind of talent on the trade table, but it'd have to be picks. Maybe they're just trying to work themselves into multiple first round picks rather than just a single one. And maybe they like some players who are in that back end of the first round. This year's class looks like a kind of top 12 to 15 standout, and then after that it can tail a little bit. So maybe they're happy to just look at maybe getting a couple of late or mid-teen picks for pick 7. Like I said, it's going to push out to a few selections anyway with match bids, compensation, and all the like. So it's going to be interesting to what they do. And then Porter, the other one, who could be trading. Obviously, they've got a busy trade period ahead of them anyway with Radicalia, Jordan Sweet, Zerk Thatcher all trying to get over there, and they just don't have the capital at the moment, it seems, to be able to kind of guarantee deals, because Scott's even said he doesn't see Radicalia's deal going through. It seems like just about every request. Usually, if you're off contract, you'll be finding your way somewhere anyway. But yeah, they obviously need to be splitting a future first round pick to be getting those kind of 3 guys in with more draft capital, and that means that's 3 years in a row without a first round selection. They got Jason Long-Francis in last year though, so you can kind of claim that as a first round pick anyway. So just a busy period coming up for Port and potentially Geelong as well, it sounds like.
Yeah. Anything to add on to that one, Jack?
Yeah, no, it's going to be a busy one for them to navigate. Obviously, I think the splitting up that pick is going to be pretty essential to sort of unlocking the rest of those dealings.
Who do you think is worth more, Zerk Thatcher or Radicalia? One's an actual defender and one's turned into a defender. And it sounds like Radicalia, they might have to cop up more for him.
I think he has a high ceiling. It's obviously a bit, 2 different situations, but I think in terms of their output, they're at a pretty similar level. But they both probably aren't going to command really high-end capital in the end. So, but it does seem like Radicalia probably will get a little bit more in terms of just the level of capital from
Pretty different in age though too, aren't they?
No, they'll be similar. I think Zerk Thatcher's 25, 26. I think Radicalia might be 26, 27. They're not far off. Yeah. They're not like they're reaching the peak or hitting the peak in that kind of career time frame. But yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, Rugby League only tended to a defender this time last year, or just over 12 months ago, whereas Zerkach has been developed as a defender since day one. But he obviously hasn't played that much. It was his first full season, I think, last year or this year. So they've both got some good ceilings, and they'll work well together alongside O'Leary. But it's just going to be interesting to see what Geelong ask for and what Essendon ask for, because they're two very firm negotiators when it comes to trading their own players out.
Yeah, well, there you go. Learn something new every podcast. All right.